Hi guys, I'm Mo Miller. I'm Managing Director at Blackwater Tech, and welcome to the Construction Workshop. I'm excited to share some very interesting findings that popped up during our research so far, and we're focused at taking business operations to the next level through this research. Have a look. Let me know what you think through and through. Feel free to add questions to the Q&A section, and I will try and respond to them as quickly as I can. Okay, so far we executed about 100 digital transformation projects, and one of the common things that we've been finding through and through is to do with how cash flow has been slowing people down in terms of how business operations are carried out. And the second thing that popped up during our conversations is how do we use the software that we already have? And one main issue that I was able to look at is people tend to buy a product and then hoping that's going to work with their business, but there are some gaps. Okay, so the whole business operations, Blackwater Tech was founded around that problem-solving feature, which is, our main operation focus is we're technology partners enabling companies on the track to mergers and acquisitions to boost business valuation figures. And how do we do that is making organizations compatible with each other, and also how the whole business operations kind of like come together in a single interface kind of landscape. Okay, cool. So with that in mind, I'm going to take this further. Let me know if you have any other detail that you want me to cover off during the presentation, and I will pick it up right away. Okay, cool. So the purpose of this presentation, the objective of today's presentation, we're looking at how to use Microsoft 365 applications, mainly Sharepoint. So we'll be approaching this from a document management point of view, how different organizations within the construction industry currently utilize data, and how the data format that we're using applies to different business scenarios. Okay. So to split this out further, we have identified we have put this together into 3 points. One is, there are data issues in the construction industry. Let's have a look at what are the top items and what is the source or the reason behind those, the root cause behind those issues. The second one, what is SharePoint? Okay, so I'm covering this from a business process and the whole Microsoft 365 application setup, but SharePoint is where I'm going to focus more, because I'm thinking about how documentation or the document management side of things are going to be covered off, because that is the foundation of laying any business system in place. Okay. The third one, I will go a little further deeper with an example on how SharePoint or Microsoft 365 applications will potentially offload the business process, and see how they are going to make the hand in and hand out, or the interactions between different team members, seamless. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the step one. So we're talking about what are the top data-related issues in the construction industry. Number one, there is document management chaos. I mean, it's a strong word, but when we talk about document management, what we're seeing is there are many types of documents that are required by different team members at various different levels. And one of the key things there is, so for example, if the project document, the project initiation document utilizes a certain type of information, we then have the sales process utilizing another type of information. And sometimes capturing different pieces of information in different areas or in different documents only means that data is distributed. And starting off the operations, the business operations, the normal trend we see is companies tend to use small, disparate software solutions, and every single system has a different piece of the data. So in general, there are multiple copies of the same information, and there are many different versions that may not be up to date. Let's say once after the sales handover is done, project teams are dealing with the whole lot of data updates, and the sales team may be out of loop because they did not do anything past the CRM. Maybe sometimes when towards the end of the business process, we are handing over to accounting team, and the accounting team receives one set of information, but they are not aware of in-project changes. So when you submit a payment application, there are going to be questions coming back, and you have to start raising queries. The client starts raising queries, and we try to respond to all of these questions. And that takes a little bit of time, which then influences how quickly payments are processed by the client. So document management chaos, there's also communication issues. Again, all the teams are moving so in different directions, and they have their own business goals and business focus. And as a result of which, some people are further along the journey than the others, and everybody moving at the same time becomes a challenge. Real-time visibility of project. Again, this ties into some of these previous items that I was talking about. Mainly, some team members are moving faster than the other, and not everybody's in the same loop with respect to the conversation. Then we also have changes in terms of safety and compliance management difficulties that are coming because of the government or any regulation changes. Let's say the fire safety is increasing tolerance on some of the dimensions, or decreasing tolerance on some of the dimensions, or some specifications relevant to what material you're going to be using, let's say cladding. Right. So mainly these kind of changes that come through some of the compliance departments. I mean, if the organizations are really big, they have a dedicated compliance department that is able to track and update the rest of the team members. But in cases where, it's a small team, fast growing team, those kind of situations, it may sometimes make it a little, there's a bit of a back and forth. Okay. Then the next item on the list we have is mobile access to field workers. So again, with the latest mobile technology, unless you are organized a certain way, by that what I mean is if you have the latest systems, single flow of information is available. You have one main system that is able to capture all the main data, and then you have your field workers who are accessing the same information. It works out, but in situations where that is not possible, it becomes difficult. So people, when they are on the site, they realize the changes that have been communicated to the office team via phone or email, they're not updated in the information pack that they are carrying with them on the site. Last one, there are inefficient data collection and manual processes. So people at different points along the business process capture information, and if they are manual processes, they don't tie in really well in terms of how the same information is getting transformed and evolved. Okay, so these are some of the data-related issues. Now let's look at what is SharePoint, right? Again, SharePoint, I'm going to look at it from the whole Microsoft ecosystem point of view. I'm not going to get into the detail of how to use SharePoint or how to use Microsoft 365, purely because there's many videos out there. There's a whole lot of Microsoft documentation that is available. So just how to use the system. I'm going to focus more on how a business is going to be able to utilize the whole application from a business process point of view. So you organize your business in a way that is, and then utilize Microsoft 365 as a tool to enable your business process. Okay. I think it will all make sense as we go along, and I show you some examples of what I mean by that. Okay. So just to sum it up though, Microsoft 365 and SharePoint, they are document management system. They're cloud-based. They have integrations with all the other applications such as Microsoft Teams, Power BI. There's also mobile app solutions there. I mean, most of these apps are available via mobile app. And then there's quite a bit of automation that can be enabled via applications such as Power Automate. And then there's also Microsoft Project, which is quite heavily utilized by people in the construction industry, which also allows the project scheduling and resource management up to a certain degree. Okay. Now, the thing is, all of these applications are designed to interplay with each other. And most of the people who are purchasing Microsoft Office 365, the kind of product stack, because again, people do not get into construction business because they want to learn more about technology. This is usually the thing. And right now, even though they seem really simple and they have many ways of application, people, unless you have a fixed format of how you want to use it, it becomes difficult in terms of understanding, anything is possible. So people tend to do everything in many different directions. So having a fixed design of a business process kind of limits or sets everybody in alignment with each other. Okay. All right. Cool. I'm going to move on to the next one now. Let's have a quick look. So again, now, why do we need this specified business process, or why do we need to organize this data? Again, we were looking at the objective. We were looking at, there are different documents and data that is being generated by different team members and different players across the business. And then we are automatically coming into a premise, right, saying, okay, we need to organize business data. So what would be the quickest thing? So let's say you want to create a Word document. You create a Word document with a title that makes sense to the creator, and then you just type in or store whatever information is useful for the creator. So that would be the quickest step. But then again, now we're saying, no, we need to do a little more complex step, which is the organization, right? Now, why do we need to organize business data? Step one, there is ISO. ISO specifies that every single document needs to have a certain metadata, as they call it. So what I mean by metadata is, in some situations, you have a project information. There's also project name, project ID, and then if you're going to create abbreviations, those abbreviations need to follow a certain format. There's also date, which is a key requirement, and also within these documents, there are pieces of information that you need to store in the headers and the footers. Okay? So this is a requirement for organizing data from a compliance framework point of view. Here, we're talking about ISO 9000. Okay. The second one requirement here is systems compatibility. Many organizations use many different types of systems. Again, when you are starting off small, growing big, there are multiple different types of systems, and unifying all of these could be an expensive task. From a cost-benefit point of view, it might not make sense in the beginning, but later at some point in time, you might want to consolidate all your systems. Or in the present scenario, you also might be in a situation where you're taking data from one system and uploading it into another system. Let's say, for example, you have this, the payment application process. People create payment requests or payment applications in Excel sheets. They have their own template that they create over time. They curate, they improve, they build it out. But payment application data may not always be easy to import into applications like Sage or QuickBooks or Xero, which means the accounting team is also keying in all this information manually. Creating or organizing business data in a format, in a standard format, will allow easy import into all of these other accounting systems. The next reason why we need to organize business data is to, again, uphold government regulatory requirements. What I mean by that is HMRC, when you're filing for accounts, or if you're filing for any financial regulation side of things, it is required that you store your reports in a certain format. And it is also important that you report to the government in a certain format. So you store them. Say, for example, if you're using something like Xero, you have your customers, you have your invoices, and then there's pieces of information on that, such as, there's a line item for project, like what is the cost that is being allocated, and then what is the cost? Is it being billed monthly, being billed in 7 days? You have all of these payment terms, all of these agreements which come from the contract. So these are some of the key pieces that you need to store on your invoice, and this is a requirement from the government. Okay. The next reason here is quality control. So what we mean by quality control? Quality control, it's you have been able to do something really well, and you want to be able to do that again and again. So if you're looking at, say, sales process point of view, if you feel like there are certain number of tasks that need to happen, and some have been happening at a good degree, some have not been happening at a good degree. I mean, again, it could also directly relate to the people who are operating within that team. Now, to understand where the organization needs more resource or more effort to improve the quality of the output or generate result quicker, you need a certain format of reports. There are standard formats of reports many organizations use. Some could be very specific to the business itself. Now, all of these do come in with a data structure and a requirement without which you cannot produce the report. So that's the quality control side of things. So, but looking at this from a technology point of view, one of the fundamental uh, points on digital transformation is to be able to carry out a digital transformation exercise, you need what is called a data foundation. Okay, one of the first steps there is being able to convert your raw data, which is every business area that is producing data, using all of that data to make it into something that is structured. Now, what that structure is going to be, that is, I'm not going to get into much detail about that, but th- that is the framework. So, why do we need to organize business data? That is the like setting the framework of how what kind of structure makes sense to you, if I may. Right now, let's have a look at what structured data actually means. Structured data, we are referring to data that is consistently formatted and repeated, right? And this is also, again, if you're purely doing it from a government point of view, that format and the repetition are in line with what the government is looking at. I'm going to cover this from a technology point of view, purely because our objective, we're looking at how Microsoft applications are going to run, or how to get the best out of your software stack. So structured data requires creation of a format and the repetition of the same format. Okay. Now, another thing is the data has to be in a format that is recognizable by computers. Now, these are the two fundamental items we need to start any taking any step into the digital transformation side. Now, how to structure a business data, right? So here are some of the fundamental items. I'm not getting into the complex bits because this is our first session in the workshop, but just to give you an idea here, we are talking about consistent file naming convention. As an example, here, when we say consistent file naming convention, there is grouping of files related to, let's say these are project, right? Now, within the project, we want to capture some key pieces of information about the project. Say there's a project start date, there's a site, there's also a project ID. Now, these could be some key information, and some of the business requirements may extend a little further. Let's say this project is being carried out in a certain location, and the address of that project, and also the site manager who's going to be responsible for the project delivery. Right. So similar to that, there are different metadata requirements. Now, depending on how much of a priority that is, you could include that into the metadata. Okay. The next item here is version control. Version control has proven to be a big influential factor when coming to maintaining documents and standards, because whenever there are revisions, by tracking what revision is happening when and where, we're able to determine whether or not it is compliant with whatever agreements have been made within the contract. Let's say the contract was set on a certain scope, and then automatically, like through the project, if there was some variation in project requirement, but is not included in the contract, that could put the business under risk when it comes to payments and other legal items that are within the project lifecycle. Okay. Version control has proven to deliver a control on these variations, especially with the contract. Okay. Now, we have tagged and grouped all of these documents and also set the version control. But one of the key things about having SharePoint in place is being able to find the right set of documents when you need them. So all your files are distributed across the organization. There's, say, 20, 30 SharePoint sites, and you're not able to find the right file when you need it. Right? That is the biggest, that could become our biggest challenge. And then having to talk to a lot of people only causes time and all of these issues, losing time and also effort around that. Having the right keywords within your naming structure, that again enables you to quickly find your document and then progress next steps. Okay. Here are some examples I have. So when we say naming conventions, so the quick and dirty way that we currently, it's like I've been guilty of that too in the past. So we have, first one we're saying test data 2016.xlsx, and then comparing that to the one in the next section there is, we have our ID, the project ID, project A, and EX1 test one, that is, again, site, and then we have our manager and also the version. Using a format like that, it's compliant when it comes to, setting the right standard, again, from like the whole document management related syntax. Okay. This is also compliant with all the ISO requirements as well. So these are some of the examples. I'm not going to get into much detail there, but yeah, in further sections, in our further webinars, I will be covering off how a naming convention or any of these formats are going to be applicable. Throughout our implementations, we have noticed that different organizations had different priorities and how they came together in terms of setting up these taxonomy, as we call it. Okay, cool. Now, coming to SharePoint. SharePoint for document management. One of the key reasons why this is recommended, or many people choose this application, right? One of the key reasons is, so we have centralized document libraries, and then this eliminates reasons for version control, because that version control is being covered off by SharePoint. We have metadata tagging and search capabilities. Again, the search that we have through SharePoint, or even our Windows ecosystem, it is quite powerful, but there is a way, if the documents are organized in a structured way, they're easy to find. They can be easy to find. That's what that means. Then permissions. There's also different data security issues, and there various levels at which you cannot expose all the documents to everybody. It's not like different teams are trying to keep things secret, but the biggest challenge here is, as soon as you extend your sensitive information to different team members, you're also extending the risk that goes on with that comes hand in hand. So, for example, GDPR, the number of people who are exposed to customer personal information, they're also responsible for any mishandling for that might happen. Let's say there's a hack, or there's some kind of a cybersecurity issue, and everybody else who had access to that data are directly under, I wouldn't call it liability, but something like, they're all held responsible for it. Same way with the financial data as well. Okay, which is why having that security hierarchy is essential and is easy with something like SharePoint. Now, again, data retention, that is going to be one of the key things. So according to the financial requirements, we need to retain about 5 years worth of data. Now, with systems like SharePoint, it is easy to track from different versions of our files and see which of those are beyond the data retention policy, and you can automatically archive them or delete them, depending on whatever next steps or the purpose of those data is. Okay. Now, Office 365 also gives us seamless collaboration capabilities through applications such as Microsoft Teams, right? Creating various channels and also various so through various chats and channels, we are able to exchange the same set of files, even though we create really different tabs within different every single conversation. We are still referring to the same documents. So if we are working with somebody one-on-one, we do have the ability to edit the same document that is visible to a wider scope, like even the stakeholders. So if they need to comment or input on the document at any point in time, they can look at it in real time. Last one, the single source of truth for all project documentation. I mean, it's not just limited to project documentation, but it's like thinking about it, like throughout the organization, when you have many different copies, everybody's understanding is separate. One other key item is you don't know if certain action item has been responded to. Whereas having that single source of truth, you know when the other teams have done their part so that the problem is fully solved. So you know whatever problem originated or landed in your lab has been covered off and you don't have to do any follow-up steps. Okay. How do you implement this? Now, SharePoint does these wonderful things. We wanted to look at, okay, there is a case for making unstructured data into structured data. And then we know SharePoint has these capabilities and Microsoft applications have these wonderful capabilities that you can utilize. Now, how do we use this? Right. Step one, so just to bear in mind, this is a process or a framework that we apply to most of our implementations. And this has come through carrying out similar implementations over the past 15 years. And we have been evolving our method of delivering success. And our main focus was to cut down time for implementation. And also there are some repeatable complexities that always arise, especially working with the construction industry. Our focus has been try how to minimize these kind of incidents from happening again and again so that we know we can get into a project really quick, we can start it, finish it, and then wrap up really quick. And that in turn maximizes the whole quality of customer experience and for everybody working on that team. Right. So with that in mind, these are some of the bits that we were able to lay out. First, we look at segmentation of organization and teams based on data generation criteria. What I mean by that, again, here, so let's say there's a construction management company. The construction management company is basically taking on board a project and they have a bunch of subcontractors who are fulfilling the actual execution of the project. In these situations, in these type of projects, one of the main business focus or focus of the business process is around scoping out the project, maintaining that visibility on the scope, what was agreed with the client, and then what was agreed with the subcontractors. Following that, they're interested in how many, what kind of resource is allocated, what are the different skill sets. Once after resource skill set are organized, then we're looking at what type of tracking is in place. So the project is progressing step 1, step 2, step 3. And while this is happening, let's say some of the team members required to take a day off due to some form of an emergency. So these type of variations or unexpected events tend to cause changes in terms of how quickly the project or the project milestones that are in place. Right. So for a construction management company of this type, the data segmentation that we were able to propose is around how information can be stored project-wise. By storing information project-wise, the success and resource allocated in single resource can be allocated to multiple projects. At resource level, we were able to look at how much of consumption is happening per day, how much empty time is allocated per day, or in some cases there's over allocation. We're able to flag that, and then depending on the priority, some projects maybe the milestone is coming close and there is there's no scope to move the resource around. So those kind of segmentation and or those kind of notifications or data visibility becomes possible by segmenting teams and organizations based on projects in this particular case. Right. First one, again, coming back to the process of implementing data management. Step 1, we segment the organizations and teams based on their criteria. Number 2, we segregate the data and we set the naming conventions, so which is a taxonomy. We define the taxonomy of what is the whole, what every single type of a document is going to be following through and through. Then we look at creating data owners. So project managers, usually they are responsible for all of the integrity of all the project documents, whereas the sales managers are responsible for the integrity of all the documents that are coming through up until the quote proposal being won. Similarly, you have your finance teams looking at the invoice quality and integrity. So by creating the right data owners, you then have accountability and also somebody who's watching it towards completion. Following that, there's a audit routine. So audit routine refers to, okay, we have this wonderful plan. We will put that in place. And then time and again, we need to check what we originally thought of as our segmentation criteria or data categorization criteria is working for us. And everybody's able to follow and everybody's able to repeat. So once you have the audits in place, you want to track and report on the audits. So you want to see what is working, what is not working. Maybe there's going to be a course correction. Okay. Next, application of the data management strategy. So this is once you have all of these frameworks or these methods you're going to follow documented and written down, then it comes to actually applying it, training the teams, and then using apps to flow through the process. Okay. Now, I've been talking about everything from a theoretical point of view, from a really high level point of view. I'm going to go a step further. Okay. Now, for the sake of understanding what we spoke about up until this point in time, let's go one step forward. We're going to look at this from the point of view of a project manager, a construction project manager. So summarizing, again, this can be, some of our document sets show like it's a widespread of events happening throughout the business process, but I kind of shrank it just to give you, some of the high level touch points here. So step one, we're saying, a project initiation and setup needs to happen. Again, there is a assumption here that the document itself or the handover to this business process has happened following the sales cycle. So sales were able to get a proposal signed off. They were able to win this project, and then handover has happened to the project manager. So project manager carries out the initiation and setup of this project. So at this stage, there are a few steps that are going to happen that I'm proposing could happen in the Microsoft application space. We'll get into that in the next slide. But just to cover this off, project initiation and setup, and then we're looking at regular project management workflow. So the project manager oversees a bunch of projects, and they're looking at how people are allocated, how every plan is put in place, how resources are organized, those steps, and then project execution. So the team members actually go to the site, they carry out the tasks that need to happen, and they report on the progress every day, or depending on whatever the frequency is set, and then there's monitoring, tracking. Finally, we have project control. Again, if this is to do with the budget control, how much time and effort we are investing into the project, and what's coming back. And then finally, we have the project handover and closeout. Okay. This is roughly what the project manager workflow could look like in a in the Microsoft application ecosystem. So if you look at the top swim lane here, the top swim lane, we're looking at, this is the project manager tasks. We're talking about creation of a project site. And then once the project site is created, the team members are able to engage with the activities via kickoff meetings. And then the team members, the stakeholders are able to use SharePoint and Teams for collaboration. They're able to discuss any of the items that need to happen here, any information gaps there are, or whatever the next step should be, that project clarity. And then we have a project site that is getting created. Again, this is the agreement in terms of how we're going to organize data, how we're going to organize interactions between each other. Once those agreements are in place, project site is created. Once after this step is done, again, we're expecting this step to be carried out by the project manager. Once after this step is done, this is a planning phase. Within the planning phase, the project manager is able to create a task list and a schedule. Team members are able to share estimates and develop the plan further. Stakeholders can approve the plan. Following that, the SharePoint site is going to be utilized as a document repository. Okay. The next step, we're saying the project manager will then track the execution. So the tasks that are created in the work breakdown structure or the task list, the project manager on a regular basis, they're able to track it via dashboards that can be put into SharePoint. We can also view all the tasks that are being completed, and then there's progress reviews based on how we are tracking against the tasks. For this purpose, considering if the team is purely utilizing the Microsoft application ecosystem, we're looking at something like Planner or To-Do to be able to track some of these items. SharePoint will finally present the track and progress of the project. The next item we're on this list for the project manager is monitoring and controlling the KPIs, the milestones that are in flight, and also weekly status reports. Again, this is something both of them look at together. Reviews are carried out with the stakeholders probably monthly. So finally, we have the dashboards. Again, this is another reporting format. So SharePoint allows us to create some basic dashboards in it, but there's also Microsoft Power BI that allows us to create dashboards using the SharePoint data separately and then embed that dashboard in a SharePoint site so that everybody on the team is able to see all the information in one place. When project is closed, again, depending on data retention, we're archiving documents and then we're approving closure and also maintaining an archive library. I just realized we're going past time, so I'm going to be a little quick. So, day in the life of a project manager, we have, they check communications, review site updates, and then revisions of latest documents. We're also looking at clarifications that are happening across the board, and then also highlighting risk items and also other discussion points. With SharePoint, all of these things can be done from one single project site. Okay. Another important feature about the whole SharePoint ecosystem is the ability to ensure that data stays within the organization. Microsoft has a product called Microsoft Entra. So when you sign up for a Microsoft 365 license for your business, it comes with a certain base configuration of a firewall around your virtual business entity. And you can create a bunch of policies to restrict how data stays within the business and goes outside the business. So, for example, if you look at one, this is one of the first item on the list here. This is a policy that you can create on your SharePoint site, wherein, okay, if there's a document, say email, or a document residing in your SharePoint, OneDrive, or Teams, and the application is able to scan through the content of these files, and if it contains any key information such as national insurance number, passport number, or account number, or any of these types of information, then it's automatically tagging this document as sensitive information. And once there is a sensitive information, you can create a notification to your administrator, so the administrator automatically knows when this is being shared outside the organization. That is one way to do it. Again, there's Microsoft Entra, the Azure Entra, which is the product, and also Microsoft Intune. These are some of the products that you can utilize to take this much further. What they allow you to do is, when you have some of this configuration in place, whenever somebody is trying to share information to the cloud, let's say like a Google Drive or any other external drives, the system is able to limit the data upload there. Also, the USB devices that are able to take the data out can be disabled with these policies as well. Return on investment and benefits. Yeah, overall, these are some of the stats we were able to gather again through our research. On an average, about 221% return on investment. Initially, this might seem like a complex step, being able to organize how you're going to use this application. So once you have that plan or a framework, a method of working, that then translates into effective utilization of your applications. And to be able to get to that, it may seem like a big investment or effort involved in thinking all of these through, but overall, there's a big boost in spend. There's also a big boost in reduction of infrastructure costs. and also the project costs. And then there's also many safety and compliance related issues that have been dropped in as well. Recommendations. How do you make this happen for your organization? Step one, we recommend to start with a phased implementation. Just identify some of the quick wins. Let's say you want to apply this across sales or projects. In this particular case, pick one area, and then once you're able to define success there, try apply it across different organizations. Again, prioritization of document management and collaboration tools. So there has to be a method in which you want to use. For example, up until this point, many companies are used to using email as a primary source of communication. Teams does bring in a whole lot of new features. Instead of using both, if you are able to define a framework saying there's for these set of type of communications, they are going into this channel, and you are able to maintain a record and a plan on when to use what. There's going to be a repeated usage and also user adoption. Then training and change management are going to be the key, because everybody needs to be in on the plan and everybody needs to have the same levels of understanding. So unifying them through training and change management exercises are key critical. There are quite a few pre-built templates. You can utilize that to make that jump really quickly. And working with the Microsoft partners or consultants similar to us, the advantage is we give you insights into what we've seen so far and what we see the future trends that are coming up. And we have some ready-made templates and information sets that you could use to make that first jump faster. Finally, it's a transformation of the business. Everything needs to happen. So it's transformation in the way of working, transformation in the digital business. There are many benefits coming from that direction, especially with AI coming up right now. All of these methods of organizing your data will allow easy onboarding of future technologies. That's all I have for today. Thank you for joining us, guys. We will be hosting these webinars bi-weekly. So if there are any other topics you feel like would be of value to you, let us know. We will try and cover those off, even if it is a specific business scenario. Please feel free, let us know, and keep in touch if you could join the other ones as well. We'll look forward to catching up with you. Thank you.